Good morning, everyone. My name is Diego Farías, and with my partner Ignacio Evangelemo. So Ignacio is going to
The presentation, we thought that this side of the text number 17 was important. As language teachers, we are privileged to work with a professor very being. It is the way we come to terms with the world. It is the way we make our understanding of life concrete. It is the way we make contact with other human beings. So to introduce our presentation, I'm going to talk about the establishment in general. In this case, the establishment is a rural school located outside of the city of Talca, near Aldea Campesina in Panguilem. The number of students on this case are around 20. It is an 8th grade of basic education. About the class, it is an overall dynamic class. They like to work in groups. They like to be creative. They are motivated when it comes to new activities, but they have some discipline problems that we are going to discuss later in the presentation.
So in this case, I'm going to talk about the strengths of 8th grade. This is a link between enthusiastic and work-rating groups because when the teacher will give them a homework or a workshop, they will work with a lot of enthusiasm, asking questions, and they are so creative working in groups.
So further into this part of the presentation, yes, they are enthusiastic groups and they are curious. These three capabilities can be translated into a clear example of one activity created by the professor that was about creating their own sentences on first conditional using two verbs that he gave at the beginning of the class. But they have to be the most creative they can. And that led to them sharing their thoughts, asking about ideas to their other peers, and the results were impressive because although the teacher did not say that the verbs written on the whiteboard were the ones that had to be the nucleus of the sentence, they use it as complement or even not even the main verb of each part of the sentence. Instead, they came up with a whole different concept of using those two verbs. And that leads to them asking about certain words that they do not know, which is related to the fourth point that says that they want to know the meaning of words, and they are also interested on learning specific contents. What we are trying to say with this is that they show interest in certain aspects of the class that they can relate to sometimes, but they also lack interest in others. And as we mentioned before, they are really creative. They can come up with great ideas, with really creative plots on writing assessments, on our writing assignments.
Notice that when they ask us about what is the meaning of this word and how can we use it in a sentence. That's why they want to know the meaning of word and is connected interested on specific content because they show curiosity at that moment. So continuing with the witnesses, they are so irresponsible because, for example, they forgot to bring their notebooks to the class, or the activity is not concluded, and especially they are undisciplined, making distractors that obviously distract other classmates' attention.
So yeah, as my classmate mentioned, they are irresponsible when it comes to homework, for example, and that can be translated or produced by their lack of habits. But there are many factors involved. We have to take into consideration the background. Maybe they don't have the right conditions to make their homework at home, but we can't make further investigation into that. They also have discipline problems. There are a percentage, around the 30% of the whole class, that has this problem, and that can lead to the other classmates getting distracted in class too. They're also very afraid of making mistakes, in the sense that when they're asked to respond aloud or read aloud or pass in front of the class and write their response on the whiteboard, and focus the attention on another classmates because they do not feel confident enough to pass in front of the class and give a response because they are afraid of making a mistake. And this can be produced also because of the final weakness, it's the excessive use of dictionary translator. They depended on this tool, and this lead them to not knowing that much vocabulary related to the unit because they just write what the translator tells them to write. And when you ask them what does that mean, they do not know how to write.
Continue. This is an important side that says a lack of respect from teacher or peer or being asked to do something where they are almost certainly bound to fail can make students feel frustrated and upset. So continue this side with the opportunities, and they are lacking of confidence, and we as a future teacher we have to be careful at the moment of a conflict because we have to think the words that we want to talk with them, with the whole group, and make a confidence between teacher and student.
Into consideration the strengths and weaknesses and also the context that we already mentioned, we think that these two are the most important opportunities that we can get off this context. The first one is implementing habits on the class in the form of activities that occur every specific day of the week. Why we think about this? Because we mentioned that they are irresponsible, and one of the main reasons that the teacher have told us and we have noticed is that they lack habits. So if we start a specific day of a week, we start to create habits for them. For example, every Thursday can be a show and tell Thursday, and those Thursday can have a topic. For example, one topic can be my favorite song, my favorite artist, my favorite book. The second opportunity we consider is dialogue with students when they are struggling. As we mentioned, they are really enthusiastic, they are invested in this, can lead one-to-one because that can be a group just related to, so a tip.
Okay. The discipline issue could be well, because in respect and obviously making this even worse.
Yeah, so as my class had mentioned, is to tackle this problem by specific answer, the correct answer, or maybe there is no correct answer to this problem. We have noticed too that teachers have already changed seat of certain students because if they sit together, they disrupt the entire class. That leads to the class getting distracted, which can also snowball into the problem that standards may not be reached because they are not understanding everything that the class is about. There also be the problem that they will never get comfortable enough to share with the class. Alarming because for them to be able to acquire the language, they need to interact, they need to share ideas, they need to come up with their own thoughts. And that's really complemented with interaction and with sharing too. And finally, students are not able to let go of the Google Translator. As we mentioned, it is a really problematic issue. I've seen it on my own class, which is 7th grade, that the teachers started to put the phones at the beginning of the class inside a box. So they don't have the temptation to use them to translate things instead of using an old-fashioned dictionary or just straight up asking the teacher about a certain word. For our closure, we wanted to brainstorm some of the ideas that we came up with for the weaknesses and the threats we were able to identify throughout our practicum process.
So that's why we had to be a member, or as a Jofré says, we had to put in their shoes before to talk with them and investigate what the issues come from, and obviously make a solution about this.
So further on what Diego is saying, there is this class called Consejo de Curso, and this class can be used to identify these problems. How? We can ask the class, okay, so what are you concerned about regarding English classes? Topics would you like to introduce? Because as we mentioned, we do not have a problem with motivation. They are motivated. They just need habits. So we have to come up with creative activities and start implementing them regularly so they do not feel disconnected between them. And when the students notice that there is a pattern every week, they will start to use this pattern on their own learning process, not even just in English, but in each one of the one of the learning areas of their school. but also that can lead them to start doing their homework, start getting more involved, sharing ideas, making them feel that the English class is a safe space for them to share their thoughts.
So that was our
Our presentation.
presentation. Thank you very much and have a good day.